we've heard Jaggi, we've heard Manas. Passion, relationship, they came up. I call myself a relationship guy. Okay. Having said that, when people ask me when I stand on a podium of IIM or at Symbiosis, what did you go back with from Manipal? You did hotel management. I went back with nothing, but I went back with my relationship who's still there with me. Okay? So I went back with my wife. You're going to hear her tomorrow. Okay? So she and me, both of us, we share the same platform of training where there's one single connect. And what is it? It's a passion. And we were passionate about this. That's the reason why we are here today and whatever that we have been doing today. Coming back to introvert to extrovert, which we did here. Thank you. A thoroughly introverted guy, that's what I was. Okay, very few people know who I was in 10th course. And let me also tell you, if you would see my brochure, 10th course doesn't feature me on that picture. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because I was spending time with my relationship. Okay, so that is basically where me and introverted. Worked with the hotels, spent sometimes around 5 to 7 years with hotels, but really felt that I had to challenge because I was always jealous about those extroverted. What path did I choose for myself? It was a passion which drove me, wanted to take up training, and that's the reason why I'm in training, because through training, I challenge my introvert self into the extroverted self. That's basically that was the avenue that we took with which we came up with. Though I cannot talk about relationships here, I had to take a business context. So the context was taken as customer relationships. Maybe you would hear a lot of things about relationship in personal when I talk about my passion about the customer relationships. Okay, another summing up mantra, which just came up to me when I was hearing both the speakers before. How do you go about in pursuing your relationship? How do you go about in terms of following your relationship, be it personal, be it with customers? 3 Ps is what I keep following. I call it as the 3P mantra. Number one, especially in the world of AI, artificial intelligence, especially with the world of advanced technologies that have been coming up, I think there's one thing that is really going missing is what I call as a P2P. It's not a B2B business, it's not a B2C business, but it's essentially a P2P which is missing, and we call this as the people-to-people connect. Okay? We live in a pseudo world of social media. Let me make it a point. Okay? We live in a pseudo world of social media where we're looking for acknowledgements on social media when it actually comes up for you to garner in some kind of a friendship or to reap some benefits out of that relationship. It is null and void. So my P2P here talks about a people-to-people relationship which we need to build up. And I take the context of this in today's session where we would be talking about building customer relationships in the area. A first analogy which I would like to take, this is something over last 15 years which I have seen through my corporate trainings. I compare an organization to that of a bucket. Might be really strange, but then what it is and why. I think everybody has been told in the company that go, bring more and more water, pour more and more water into the bucket. Everybody has been running in and day out, and they have been pouring more and more water into the bucket. One fine day, a guy wakes up and he sees that there is a hole at the bottom of the bucket. He runs to tell the marketing fraternity, hey guys, I could see a hole at the bottom of the bucket. Before the marketing fraternity could come up, it was not merely a small hole, but it had expanded in size. So when they came up, they said, how big fools we have been all this while. All that we have been pouring in has been draining out. They said, stop. Our main motto from today is not to pour more water into the bucket, but our main motto from today is to plug the hole at the bottom of the bucket. If this analogy makes sense, what I'm trying to talk about is how we have shifted from what used to be an acquisition-based marketing where we were only running behind acquiring new customers, not realizing whether I'm able to hold on to my committed base of customers or not. So what is more important is to hold on to your committed base of customers rather than focusing on only acquiring new customers day after day. It's absolutely nonsense in one way. So having said that, the question that comes up is how do we go about in relating it? Because I think a lot of us here would need some real life example to relate. So let me come back with a situation. Let's assume all of us sitting here, we are a front office manager for a 5-star hotel. Okay? And you really got to put yourself into the situation. Think you are a front office manager of a 5-star hotel. Right now you get a call from one of your corporate clients who places a reservation with you, and he says that he's going to come in today evening at 7 o'clock to check in at your hotel. And he's going to check out tomorrow early morning at 4:30 a.m. Okay? So you took the booking, you confirmed the booking. In half an hour, your general manager calls you and he tells you, you have to change this customer into a loyal customer for our hotel. You're really in a fix, not knowing what to do. So you're looking for information here and there, and you hit a jackpot. And the jackpot of information that you hit is that it is this customer's birthday, unfortunately, tomorrow and not today. I would leave you guys with a few minutes to think, and I want some spontaneous answers. If you had to convert him into a loyal customer, how would you go about in doing it? And I want a lot of answers to come from you guys. Just stand up and answer. What would you do to change him into a loyal customer?
So first, initially, I thought about, having something celebrating his birthday at 12 a.m. or something like that, but that would disturb the customer, ideally, because if he wants a good night's sleep and he has to get up early in the morning and go. So what my hotel, what I would make my staff do in the future would be to have the team in the front office, when he's checking out, have a small, anyway that there wouldn't be a lot of people in the lobby at the time because it's that early in the morning. So have a small party for him there when he's about to check out. So have him cut a cake, have him celebrate a little bit, take a video of the same. You can use it for marketing later.
Great.
But that's what I would do.
Great, wonderful. Okay, some more viewpoints, please.
Doing this idea, what we can do is, as a form of a gift, we can provide him with an offer of future discounts in the same brand at different localities or areas,
okay.
Other outlets. So giving this discount is one of the ways that attracts people to go to that same brand and increases the amount of loyal customers.
Okay, great. Any more? Yep.
So maybe you can, if there is an availability of that, you can also upgrade him to a better room.
Fantastic.
So that even though it's his birthday tomorrow, but he has the feeling of going into the birthday with a bash.
Wonderful. Very good.
Sir, I would probably make sure that the staff knows his name,
Okay.
so that using his name throughout,
Okay.
his experience would be a little more unique, right?
Okay. Perfect. Yep.
So I think we can do something different. What we can do is, because he's checking out at 1:45, so definitely maybe he has a flight to catch or he's in a hurry. What we can do is we can keep a box of chocolates in the reception, and whoever checks in at that time, other guest, we can have them have those chocolates and tell them it's this gentleman's birthday. So if they come across him, they can wish him. And when the gentleman comes out to check out, he can see the receptionist telling the other guest that it is Mr. X's birthday, and you can have these chocolates from his side. So this will create an impact, I feel.
Wonderful. Okay, so these are all ideas. Well, I'm restricted with time, so I cannot take too many ideas, but I'll just try to bring in a focus of what we just heard. Most of the things that you guys said, you believe that by doing this, you will be able to convert him into a loyal customer. I have a couple of questions here now. Somebody said giving a loyalty card for future benefits, how does that ensure that you've made him loyal now? Okay. Further to talk about, in the same city as this, there might be also Hotel X, Hotel Y, and Hotel Z, which are of the same stature as this hotel is. And if you are so hell-bent in changing this customer into a loyal customer of yours, given an option, these other competitors would also not leave any stone unturned. Yes, no. So all the points that you guys mentioned, I would believe they would also do those if they get an opportunity. Am I right? So we ended up creating a regular customer, not a loyal customer. What was the difference? We ended up creating a regular customer. It was not a loyal customer. So the question that comes up, this is a real-time story. Let me come back with you, come back to you with the story. It happened at Taj Residency, Bangalore, way back. And the name of the customer was Dr. Shiv Kumar. He was a corporate customer. So when Dr. Shiv Kumar came in, the front office manager himself went to the airport. He did an express check-in for him, brought him to the hotel. His room was upgraded. There were champagnes kept complimentary in the room. In the evening time, when he came down for dinner, the chef personally went down, met him, and said that, sir, since you're not there for your birthday, I wanted to offer my service. Tell me, what can I cook for you? Okay, that was number one. Nobody bothered to disturb him at midnight because, I mean, it's an intrusion in the privacy, I think, at this point of time. So nobody did that. But early morning, he had placed a wake-up call. I'm talking about times of wake-up calls. Okay, so he had placed a wake-up call. So when the wake-up call came, good morning, sir. It's 3 a.m. in the morning, and on behalf of the hotel, we wish you a very, very happy birthday. That was the first announcement which happens. After that, he comes down at the reception for the checkout. However fast a system that you might have, 5 to 10 minutes it would take you at the checkout. All the other members of the hotel, especially the managers of the hotel, they all gathered at the reception. They brought a small cake. They did a cake cutting there. They gave him a memento, and his car was waiting. So he left after that. Went to the airport, checked into the flight, and the announcement of the flight, okay, we're going to reach Chennai in so-and-so hours. On seat number 12A, we have Dr. Shiv Kumar. And on behalf of Hotel Taj Residency, Bangalore, we wish him a very, very happy birthday, comes the announcement on the flight. And before this announcement is over, there are two air hostesses who come up with a huge greetings card signed by the entire hotel team and presents it to Dr. Shiv Kumar on seat number 12A. One question. Put yourself into Dr. Shiv Kumar's shoes and tell me, are you loyal? What was it that helped you in becoming loyal? In this entire incident, what was it that helped you in becoming loyal? It was a surprise, am I right? But unfortunately, surprises come in two packages. One package of the surprise, I'm not talking about the good and the bad, but one package of the surprise is surprise that we intend to give through products. Let me come back to this. Manas will agree. Any corporate customer like this, we want to surprise them on their birthday, champagne, cake, and whatnot pluses is something that you would like to give. But tell me one thing, are you really giving a surprise? I would say that you're diluting the surprise with this. You know why? Because a customer of his stature coming to a five-star hotel on a day like this already expects that he's going to get something like this. So even if you're trying to give a surprise through products, you've diluted. What is it that really worked in this case? I call this as the second part of the surprise, emotional surprise, believe me. What touched? There was only one thing that touched. The announcement on the flight where people went out of their way, and it was not only this particular customer, but believe me, all the other 220 passengers on board, they all started thinking, if Taj could take care of their guests so well when the guest is not there in the hotel, to what degree they must be pampering the guests in their hotel. Instantaneous sale. That is exactly how it worked. So the message that we want to take out from this is, building relationships, I can give you hundreds of loyalty formulas of how to create loyal customers, how to create loyalty programs, makes no sense until and unless that there is a first element, and that first element is nothing but creating an emotional bridge between the customers and the company, which is an absolute must. Where does this come from? This does not come from your CRM. This does not come from your AI or your artificial intelligence data. It does not come from there. It only comes from your people relationships that you maintain. We went ahead one step further and we wanted to understand what was the end result of this, and that was an experience. Because all of us, when we talk about a relationship like this, we look for the word wow to come out from customers. Where does that culminate from? It culminates from an experience. We split the experience and we wanted to understand the experience in three perspectives. The transition that has happened over the period of time, how does this experience come up? We started off with something which was called as more of a product-centric scenario, where we only used to sell hotels or we used to sell our products. From there, we gradually moved on and we started focusing on customer-centric. All your marketing professors would be talking about it with you guys. What was the transition from a product-centric? I knew that my product is good. I know customers are definitely going to come here. What was a customer-centric? Customer-centric focused on starting with customers, understanding their needs, coming back with your solution, and then going back and asking them, are you satisfied or not? That's exactly how it went ahead with. If I said that we have reached a saturation of customer-centric today, how many of you would agree with this? If I say that we have reached a saturation of customer-centric, how many of you would agree with me on this? Anybody? Okay, we have a few hands, few. You would say we are still being taught that this is how the way is. We find out the need and then we find out the satisfaction at the end. But we've moved one step ahead here, guys, because today, as customer, even put yourself into the shoes as customer when you would be going to buy something, you do not buy merely a product, but I would say that we tend to buy something which is called as an experience. So we have moved on to something which we call as customer experience centric, and that's where the focus is. So what's the motto today? Not to sell a product. There are 10 competitors standing right in front of your residence. Let's take an example of your local kirana shops. There are 10 shops right in front of you. When you have to buy a particular product, would you visit all the 10 kirana shops? No. You would visit only one of them. Why? Because that one would sell the experience along with the product. And that's exactly the reason where we focused on that experience. How do you build that? That's where comes your relationship. That's where you build up your relationship. So in going about and building this relationship, which I was talking about, we must have heard about this word called moments of truth. Somebody also mentioned this before. What is a moment of truth? I heard Jaggi mentioning about moment of truth. What is a moment of truth? What is a moment of truth? We are all told and taught here in the college to create moments of truth. What is a moment of truth? Anybody? I tried just simplifying it. Anybody? Maybe just one or two answers. What is a moment of truth? Yes, I see a hand there. Yes, ma'am. Wonderful. Very good. So I have an analogy here for the moment of truth. I'll try to simplify the whole thing. How is a movie made in Bollywood? There are shots which are taken in multiple locales, am I right? And then finally everything put together, edited, and that's joined together to create a movie. The same thing goes here. Every single customer who comes in creates a movie, and the name of the movie is, quote unquote, impressions. The video shooting is done from here, and the audio shooting is done from here. They'll put in all the clips together, join it, and that's how they'll make this movie called as impressions. Even if one particular shot in a movie is not correct, there's chance of the entire movie being flop. Yes? No. In the same way, the entire impressions can go for a toss if in case one single moment of truth also is not correct. And what is this moment of truth? The moment of truth is every single interaction that the customer has with either the people of the company, the processes of the company, or the products of the company. Simple three things. So where does the experience come from? Experience comprises of three elements. If I split the experience, 1/3 of the experience comes from people, 2/3 of the experience comes from the processes that they were made to go through, and the 3/3 of the experience actually comes from the products that they see. So it's not the products alone, and that's the reason where creating the moment of truth is absolutely important. And one of the most important one that comes in here is people. Okay? So taking it on and talking about building it in stages, I'm sure some of you must be knowing about this, but when we use the word customer, it comes in at a much, much later stage. It's built over 7 stages before we derive to something called as a customer. So we start off for something called as a suspect, and that's the first relationship that we build up. Who do you think would be a suspect? Who is a suspect? Who is a suspect? At what stage would I call a customer a suspect? So at the very beginning, when I am doing my targeting, at that phase itself, I would identify my suspects. A simple analogy of this: would you ever find a suspect of Mercedes-Benz reading a vernacular newspaper? So that's the reason why you would never find a Mercedes ad coming up in a vernacular newspaper, because suspects don't read it. That's where comes your analogy of the suspect. So from a suspect, if we've targeted the correct suspects, from a suspect we create a prospect. And from a prospect, we tend to create a buyer. Now, who's a buyer and who's a prospect? What's the difference? What's the difference? So when you talk about a prospect has questions in their mind. They would like to buy something. But when that particular thing has been responded well, it leads to what is called as a buyer. So what is there in a buyer? A buyer has the curiosity in them which propels them to go and buy for the first time. And when they're going for the second time, this is where we call them as a customer. That makes a lot of difference. So somebody asks, so how would you go about in terms of differentiating between a customer's relationship and a buyer's relationship? Well, a buyer is buying because they want to fulfill their curiosity. A customer is buying because they want to fulfill their need. They've already tried it out. They know, yes, it makes sense. And that's where they're coming again for the second time. We move up from here into frequent customer, which you guys already know, to a loyal customer. But the most interesting part is the story doesn't end here. There's a 7th stage where we call it as an advocate or an apostle. What could be the differencing factor between an advocate and a loyal customer? Anyone? Yes? Correct. Don't you think a loyal customer would vouch for your product too? Okay. Absolutely. So an advocate is more like a preacher. An advocate, that's the reason we've used another word there called apostle. Who's an apostle? An apostle is a preacher. So unsolicited, that's the word. Unsolicited, when you go about in terms of preaching, that's something where it is an advocate. And if in case you're asked for and you refer back, that's probably where it's going to become a loyal customer. That's the basic difference. So it is also imperative that we've built up the relationship, created the moments of truth. Nothing makes sense if we cannot measure or give it some kind of a number to calculate whether there was a return on that particular investment. A question here, we fill up customer satisfaction surveys. We do a Likert scale on that. I have a question. In the next year, say at the end of 1 year, you filled up your customer satisfaction survey with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What should be, following the relationship principles, what should be your main focus for the next year? Should you try to shift the 1s to 2s, 2s to 3s, 3s to 4s, 4s to 5, or none of the above? Okay, so let's go by the first one. How many of you take option number 1? You think that my main focus for the next year would be shifting from 1 to 2? How many hands? No. How many of you think that my main focus should be shifting from 2 to 3? No takers. 3 to 4. Hands up. Okay. I have a couple of hands for 3 to 4. 4 to 5. Good. None of the above. Only 2 hands. Believe me, correct answer is none of the above. You know why? You know why? I started my story with the bucket, guys. I started my story with the bucket. What is more important is to quarantine the 5. The most important strategy is to quarantine the 5. Keep the 5 as they are. If you're doing it, they would automatically pull up the 4s. And that is how the whole story would move from there. So this was one way. There are multiple ways of talking about how do we measure. There are multiple ways of talking about loyalty measurements. But then time is restricted. So I would just like to share a repeat business statistics here with you guys. This is taken from the hotel industry, which says a typical hotel's one-time guest is approximately 70% is a one-time guest who are coming into the hotel. That means 30% are a repeat customer. Okay. How much does it cost to attract a new customer? Tentatively, $15. Why? Because you have to woo him from somewhere else and you're going to bring him there. So the cost of advertising, the cost of sales, everything put together is around $15. In comparison, how much does it cost to maintain a repeat customer? A merely $2.5. A merely $2.5 and plus building the relationship. Now let's come to the other side of the story. How much would a loyal customer outspend in the ratio of 5:1? Can anybody explain what is outspending? Loyal customers outspending at a ratio of 5:1. Anybody talk about what is this outspending? They would like to pamper themselves with a lot of other services which they were uncomfortable at the very beginning. If they become loyal, they might try your health club. They might try your restaurants, which initially when they came for the first time, they never did that. So that's basically the reason why the outspending ratio would shoot up to 5:1. And thereby the statistics proves that if I only take a 5% increase in retention, it can immediately shoot up 25% to 75% as far as profitability is concerned, only with a 5%. I can't guarantee that in bringing in a new customer. And why or how it happened? It only happened because that there was relationships which were being built up. Leave aside that repeat customers would also be created. So if in the entire lifespan of 20 years that you had this corporate customer with you, if he brought even one more customer, your entire thing becomes exactly double. And that is how it is. We have calculations behind this with which we do a customer lifetime value calculation, based on which we go ahead in terms of emphasizing to whom a bellboy comes up and asks me one day, so what is the importance of my job? How do you explain a bellboy what is the importance of his job until and unless you can make him realize the moment of truth, until and unless you can make him realize that every footstep that you're allowing and you're saluting and you're allowing them to enter is worth X amount of rupees. That instills that pride in that guy. That brings him, that connects him to his passion thereby. Okay, not taking much time. Finally, I'd like to collect the whole thing and talk about how probably the relationship can help in bringing in a 3 dimensions in marketing. So these 3 dimensions is what we call as the 3D of marketing. We call this as the lengthening, widening, and the deepening of relationships. So relationship has a 3 dimension, and that's basically how you're going to build up. Any idea what is when I say that we have to lengthen a relationship? Lengthening a relationship, what does that talk about? Okay, I got answers from here. Any answers from there? Exactly, the tenure. When I work upon the tenure, if I did not have any marketing plan, if I did not have a relationship manager who was working with this particular client, what is going to happen? The client is only going to stick for 3 years, maybe by default. If I have a loyalty plan, if I have a relationship plan, I might be able to hold on to this customer from 3 to 5. So that's number 1, which is lengthening the relationship. Second is deepening the relationship. What is deepening the relationship? I am talking from an economic perspective. We need to have a commercialization of relationship. This is completely a commercialization of relationship. So we've spoken about lengthening. Okay, with the help of what? That's basically where the number of interactions, number of transactions, number of purchases are to be stimulated, so that they keep coming back again and again and again. If initially they were coming once a month, we have some kind of a marketing proposition where we force them to come, or we motivate them to come 4 times a month now. And that's basically where it is the deepening of the relationship. And what is the widening? This focuses on the array of products or the scope which is available, which customers can buy. So that's your cross-selling or that's your upselling. Now understand, if I have built up a relationship, it's much easier for me thereby to practice both the widening, the deepening, as well as the lengthening, all the 3 put together, and that's how it helps me in bringing a commercial viability to even building up the relationships. Well, this is just a small snippet which I could bring in the limited time that I was given, but it's definitely a matter of pride to be standing here today and talking in front of you. And the last message which I would like everybody to go back with: competition today, even 10 years back I used to say competition is next door. Today my statement is competition is just a mouse click away. Okay? Competition is just a mouse click away. If you do not know how to maintain relationships with your customers, if you do not know how to take care of your customers, someone else will, for sure. Okay? Thank you.
Our students may be
Question.
having one of few questions. Students, you can have your questions. Yes.
My question for you would be, what makes the customer feel valued?
When he gets more than what he expects.
Thank you.
Okay? So you should know what he expects and probably give him back more than what he expects. Okay? That's your KYC.
Namaste, sir. I would include the same thing. Like, how would you expect what our customers require in today's industry, and what are the factors influencing and exceeding what customer request?
One expectation, as I said, is doing that emotional connect. That is crucial. So it's not only products. Don't think that they only would need a product. I'll give you one example for this, maybe. This happened at one of the Ritz hotels. Okay, so the client checked in at one of the properties at I think Dubai property, and he had placed a request for samosas, which they could not give. A year later, the client checked in at one of the hotels in Paris there. Before he came in, half of the things were already taken care of, because each time that he had called up customer service to tell them that I want this pillow, I want this, I want that, everything was recorded on the CRM. This is the technical side of it that I'm talking about. The surprise element came in when there was a call after he checked in 5 minutes. There's a call which comes from room service telling, sir, last time a chef had recorded that you are fond of samosas and he could not provide you. We've already kept plates of samosa ready for you. When do we serve? I hope you're able to understand. Yes. So AI should help you in keeping all the data together. But if you only use it on a technical front without that emotional connect, it makes no sense at all. So the relationship building has to have that technical plus. So technical is an enabler. Okay. CRM is an enabler. But CRM is not the be all and the end all when I do not have a passion towards customers. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Sir, you said about some strategies. So how do you build an effective retention strategies? Could you give some examples of that?
Okay, there's a long story. To bring it short, effective retention strategy is, see, every time that a customer comes in, the challenge I'll tell you first, every time that a customer comes in, he comes in with a level of expectation. I have been told that I have to send him back delighted. So my formula of delight is that the perception with which he is going, it has to be more than the expectation with which he came. Correct? Imagine when he comes for the second time, he comes in with what he went back before. So this time, second time when he's coming in with an elevated expectation. If my people do not understand the essence of customer service, they would allow him to go back with that same. That's the end of the story. He's not going to come back again because he's looking for variety. He will again go back to a new hotel or he will go back to a new company to look for. So this is something which has to be built up, and this can only happen when you know your customers and you know your people and you're able to hold on to your people. That's a very, very crucial aspect. You know what? Ask all hoteliers, ask all organizations for that matter, what is the most valued thing that they have in their company? Human capital asset. That is something which is non-replicable. Everything else can be copied by your competitors. One thing that cannot be copied by your competitors is your human capital asset, till the day that you can hold them on.
Thank you.
और उसके लिए क्या चाहिए? Relationship.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.